I've been a student of numerology since the 1980s. My earliest teachers pushed me toward numerology because they felt that I would be comfortable with all those numbers since I was an engineer. And I have to say, to some degree, they were right. There are different forms and interpretations of the numbers, and like any other modality, you have to adapt it to what really speaks to you and what resonates to you. So my version, for example, of the numbers might be slightly different than Betty's interpretation or Peggy's interpretation. We're probably very close to the similar themes, but of course there are going to be some nuances as we each filter them through our own life experiences. And really, the numbers are just a concise label for a set of recurring themes or actions that seem to be part of human existence. And these actions happen in a rhythm and cycle, and numerologists have given them a number to describe them in brevity, just as you might use a symbol to stand in for a particular archetype in astrology or tarot. And the influence of the cycles are not really in the specific events, but rather in the way we perceive these events, what takes on an importance to us and what really worries us and what becomes our focus in these given years. So you couldn't, for example, look back on a given year in history and say, oh, that must have been a number 6 year because here's the events that were happening. It really, the number importance has to do with what we feel in our heart and the way we perceive what's going on and the way we live with it. In a similar way that 5 people can sit in on a conversation and they can all come away with a different feeling of how that conversation went or what was said or what was important. And that's really what numerology does. It lights up those parts of life's events and puts the focus on specific things that are happening that align with those numeric themes that we cycle through. So around this time of year, I really start thinking about 2 key numbers. One is my own personal year for the new year, and then the other is the universal year that's coming. And the personal year is derived by adding individual numbers of the month and day of your birth with the current year. So for example, if your birthday is August 15th, this would be a personal year of 9 for you this year because August is the 8th month. And then you would add 8 plus 1 plus 5 for the digits of the 15, and then 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 0 for the year, and you'd get 18. Then add together the 1 and the 8, and this would bring you down to a 9. So you basically just keep adding the digits until you get a single number between 1 and 9. And the personal year is the year that most people associate with numerology because it tells you the theme of the calendar year for you personally. The universal year calculation is a lot easier. You just have to add the digits of any given year together. So the universal year this year for everyone, all of us, was 4 because 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 0 for the year 2020 equal 4. So the universal year is the theme that's happening in the larger population, in the larger society, the world around us. And this is the general theme in which you have to live and survive as you navigate your own personal year. So these 2 key numbers tell you much about what you will be focusing on and dealing with in the coming year and how these things will fit into the general themes that affect you. You could refine the cycles down to much more detail, and some people might compute all the way down to the day level so they have an indication of what that particular day is going to bring forward as challenges and strengths. But for me, I generally stop at the year level just to get a handle on what the recurring theme for the year is. And the numbers 1 through 9 then flow in a cycle. And after 9 ends, you start again with the number 1. So this is a natural progression, and the cycle of life goes round and round through your entire lifetime. So the flow of the themes in the numeric progression are actually, I believe, quite lovely. I see them as divided into 3 basic areas. The first third would be the number 1, 2, and 3. And this is where you're dealing with beginning of all kinds of new things and trying to make sense of it. And this is the number 1, all the new beginnings, finding a center and balance in those things and identifying which really resonate and take root. That's the number 2 is communication and balance. And then finding your power and confidence in those things, which is the number 3. The number 3 is the finding of self. And then the second third of the cycle, numbers 4, 5, and 6 are really kind of the meat of the theme of these years. So once you know and have the power that you've discovered in the number 3 year, you move into a more disciplined work and trying to make progress and moving forward and maturing that into your life. That's the number 4 year, this hard work and discipline. And then a year of readjustment and change occurs as the universe shifts you into better alignment with the divine will. And that's the number 5, the year of change. And finally, into a year where your perspective begins to turn outward, away from yourself and toward others and toward the service required by these gifts you've been given. And then the final third of the cycle is what I see as sort of the wind down and the wrap up. So in the number 7 year, you start to feel the pull of searching again. What really makes me feel whole? What do I really need? And so number 7 is the year of soul searching. And quite often it's coupled with intuition because there's so much inner thought and development. This is really where the overarching theme starts to lose its luster and starts to become old enough hat that maybe it's time to move on to something new, and you're feeling the pull of that new thing. The number 8 year is about control and sometimes having to balance power because you've come close to mastering this discipline. And sometimes power can cause you to go into an uncomfortable place where you're abusing power. So number 8 is about control. And then number 9 is really the finale. It's about completions. Sometimes gracefully, sometimes abruptly, but the entire theme and the importance that it's held in your life for this cycle of 9 has to come to a completion because in the next year is going to be the year of new beginnings. So for all of us as a collective, 2020 was number 4 year, and the learning opportunity, as we said, for this collective soul centered around work and discipline. So if you think about what was happening in COVID, for example, people were trying to work who couldn't. Others in the medical field were working continuously to exhaustion in many cases, sometimes at the risk of their own lives. And the rest of us were trying to learn to work differently to stay safe, dealing with the emotional ups and downs of working in isolation. But the themes many of the themes were centered around work. And as I said, at this time of the year, I start thinking about what is coming. So for all of us, 2021 will be a universal year of 5. This is the number of change or realignment. And I like to say realignment because I like this better because it's really the universe adjusting where we need to be as opposed to where we are, because it's our human nature to move a little more cautiously sometimes than we need to stay a little bit closer to our point of comfort than what might actually best benefit our progression. But keep in mind that this number 5 is the universal year. So these alignments will be manifest in the larger collective, the community, those around you. And that means that your influence over these situations is really quite limited. You really can only control your response to the collective energy, and you can be as mindful and respectful as possible without letting these things pull you in too deeply, because you yourself do not have the power to fix it. You don't have power over it. You only have power over your own response. So think of what was happening in the larger society in 2020 surrounding all the challenges for work in the universal year 4, what we are coming to the close of. None of us as individuals could have fixed that for the larger population. Our choice was only to change our response and handle it as best we could. Now, the number 5 tends to be a pretty sharp trigger because of the discomfort that many of us have with change. Change can feel very uncertain. And as we transition from this vibration of the universal year number 4 to the vibration of the universal year number 5, we have to expect that there's going to be a time of adjustment. So because we're just not good at this yet, we're not good at dealing with the number 5 vibration. So one thing I've noticed over the decades since I've been using numerology is that the timing of your birth month can skew the changeover point for you, how you sense the vibration changing. Numerology traditionally would begin the new year on January 1st vibrationally. However, for example, in my case, since my birthday's in late October, it pulls my sensitivity to the new theme to start earlier than that. By contrast, my sister, her birthday is a few months after New Year's. And so her vibrational pull is shifted a little bit after the new year. So, but the new personal and universal year for themes for me are already having influence by November. And so this all came up for me as the topic for my talk this week because the vibration of the number 5 kind of blindsided me over this past week. I had several people in my family and extended family who experienced very unexpected change in their life and their plans, and my ability to do anything to help was very limited. So, everyone's going to be okay. Things are definitely going to be different for them in their lives in the near term, and probably for the holidays had an abrupt shift. But I definitely lost my balance over changes that were happening in their lives. And in one case, I spent my entire week this week trying to effect a change over a situation that wasn't mine to control. I became fixated on it, and this is really not typical for me. But that needle to the heart of that number 5 vibration was triggering me, and I wasn't ready for it. And I made it my own when it really wasn't my own. So finally, on Friday night, I was doing a meditation trying to find some peace and balance with this situation that I just was having no ability to change or fix on anyone's behalf. And that's when I got clarity and insight and was reminded of the universal vibration and the role that I was supposed to have versus the role that I was trying to have. And I was reminded that the things that happened were not mine to control, and instead I needed to understand and have enough respect for the people involved to honor the way they were facing their challenges and to support them as they asked me to, rather than to try and fix the things on their behalf. There was really no opportunity for me to fix this as an individual. I just needed to listen and to be ready to help or support if asked. And so I'm thinking this is going to be a common theme, especially in the next few months, because we're just not used to this vibration yet. We're just not good at it. The universal year of a number 5 is going to trigger us, especially in this climate of heightened division, especially at a time when news media and social media are trying to alarm us and get us attention to sell ads to us. So we have to be very careful not to take that bait. We need to remind ourselves that each and every one of us chose to be here at this exact place and time, and that everyone who's working through these challenges that we're having to watch and respect and allow them challenges, every single person who's working through those challenges also chose to be here for a reason. And so we're in kind of a master class for learning to find balance and trust in the face of external changes. Here if you weren't ready, so you can take strength in that. The other recommendation is fall back on your foundational practices for centering and grounding as we work through these first few months in a new and challenging vibration of universal change. Meditate when you can, which can be traditional meditation or moving meditation like walking in the quiet. If you have an energy clearing technique that works, brush up on it and use it every few days for the next couple months. And if you get to the point where you really feel out of sorts and you don't feel like yourself, call or email to the chapel. We have wonderful healers who work on both physical and emotional issues. We have people who do Reiki, who do other energy clearing techniques, and would be glad to do distance clearings for you to help even in this time of COVID when we can't be together in person. And all healings done through the chapel are free. So this is part of what we do for each other as a community of support. So in closing, I just want to tell you to stay mindful, expect the vibration to change, and don't let the collective unrest over changes rock your foundation. Remember, you were meant to be here. You asked to be here. So observe, listen, and enjoy. Amen.